Yeah, we probably should do some research on that,
Okay,
get back with it.
that's what I wanted to check on, just to see if it's something that we should.
Mr. Mayor, I missed the council part of this. I have a question for Tiffany. Is that
Okay,
okay?
yeah, go ahead.
Tiff, you have a deal in the packet for, drug testing. And do we really only have 10 employees?
That's CDL drivers.
See,
CDL,
Someone-
CDL,
okay.
okay, yeah.
DOT.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I thought we had more than 10.
So this form,
Okay. Well, first off, I would like to make a public comment, thank you to these parts of the city staff that went out earlier today and were working on the licensed ball fields. Greatly appreciate the upcoming rec season and the high school season. There's a fair amount of lights that have been out, so pass that along. Tell them already today, Scott, so.
The wind had to go down.
Yeah, they worked on them this morning and then the wind started coming up and they couldn't finish up, but I know this year we're fortunate on the high school seasons of both baseball and softball, there's at least 10 home games, or double headers, so at least 20 home games each, so it's gonna be a high use in the spring and then of course summer with rec, so just kudos to the city staff on that. Water line update. You received the colored photo for the last couple of weeks and what's coming up here. So I'll go over that real quick. The valley is all the spots in the valley are done, online, tested, they're back heat tested, air pressure tested, everything's working. We have not switched over into services yet in that area, that will begin here in a couple weeks. Elm Street is in, so is the one block up on Hudson. It has not been energized yet, we gotta make a couple more connections at, one at Denver, and then, one at, Sherman.
Does that just affect the houses to the north of there, or, you know,
What do you mean?
Down in the south, you know,
on
last week.
Hudson and Denver? Who knows, does that affect?
For which part? I mean, okay, so, on all of Elm Street, everything north of Lawrence
Right.
will all get all new meter sets. The one block of Hudson will get new meter sets. But then we're also, right now today, he bored at least one, I don't know if you got the second one done or not, he's boring, we're redoing service lines to the 5 houses on North Locust. That little half block.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But those are service lines, not mains, so we're just putting new service lines into them, because that is a huge problem for the city. We've had a lot of leaks up in that little area. Well, in the process of that, we found that that area also services 3 more houses on Hudson to the
Okay.
east
Yeah,
of there,
okay.
because for whatever reason, they never were connected by main, they just were run off little 1-inch galvanized service lines. So those are also being added on as service lines, from this new spot. So that'll occur over here over the next couple of weeks. The one block of Sherman has been bored in, they're working today, they're gonna do that, their cut-ins on both ends of that tomorrow. So, that leads me to where I'm going to say, we're trying to make, every day or two, we're trying to keep the city office updated, the front desk, because they used to get phone calls. We've also been taking, 2 letters around, anytime we're gonna start working on the blocks. In other words, we're projected to start working on that 1 block of Coble, as well as the 3 blocks of Lincoln next week. So we dropped letters off to everybody that would possibly be affected by that, and it says, hey, coming in the next week or 2, you're gonna see work in your area. And they also see that by the locates have been called in, so the flags are starting to pop up in their yards.
Yeah.
Then we also, like for the 101 block of Sherman, where we know we're gonna have a water outage tomorrow for not, probably 3 or 4 hours at the most, we hope, unless something goes wrong. We drop a letter off the day prior saying, hey, tomorrow you're gonna have a water outage. So we're trying to go with 2 of those letters, just letting hey, something's coming, and then, hey, something's gonna be happening in the next 24 to 48 hours. So, I know the city's still gotten some notifications and calls, even though we've dropped off letters. I've had them just try to direct them back to us, and we'll either go meet with the people to find out what's going on. Your city staff doesn't need the headache of going out and dealing with all that, that's what you're paying us for, we'll take care of it. So, that's what I told Becky and Jan up front is, hey, you get a call like that, go ahead and let Tiffany and Roger know that that call came in, but they can go ahead and direct it to us. So, they're gonna start working on some, we're finding lots of other unique valves that nobody knew existed before too. So,
And a few lines.
and a few lines, yes. Interesting note, at the intersection of Elm and Lawrence, right there in front of the Presby Church. When we were putting in the new line going north on Elm, we cut across and found, so we tied on to the 8-inch line that was put in when the big tower was put in. We cut across and found the old 4-inch steel line that ran parallel to that. Abandoned, cut through it, went on our way. Got about another 6 or 8 feet up into the Presby's church yard and ran across another 4-inch steel line that we cut into. They drill it just to see if there's anything in it. They drilled it, geyser. And nobody knows where it goes, nobody knows where it comes from, where it goes to, who's on it or not on it, because we have no way to figure out how to shut it down. So we're gonna have those surprises pop up. And when we'll find out, unfortunately, is when we abandon the whole old main up Elm, which is obviously what it has to attach to. When we kill that, we didn't have to go start checking houses and churches and everything else to see if somebody's without water. If they are, we'll have to make a change to get them hooked back up to something. So, that's.
Crazy.
So, we're doing our best to keep everybody informed and keep everything going, and we're also, if we're finding something that, if Charlie and I are making some decisions to do what's in the best interest of the city, we're doing that sometimes spot on to fix some stuff that maybe is 2 feet further than what we had planned, because it's only gonna help the city out in the future. So sometimes we're doing just a little bit extra to make sure you guys don't have to go back later and discover something that could be falling apart. And Elm Street was worse than we thought, because just when you bored up through there, we had just from being 4 or 5 feet away, drilling through that rock, the vibration, we had 4 or 5 leaks, and we had to put some temporary patches on. There was one service connection to a house that literally, we didn't hit it, it just popped up and started shooting water out of it. That's why there's a brick spot, almost right across from the funeral home, just up a little bit, where the bricks are all now displaced in the street, because the service popped off, but it bled out into the street and started coming up through the bricks. So, and the service connection just literally was so brittle that it just blew apart. So, it's.
Sorry, I missed that.
Well, it wasn't even, it was like a big geyser. It
Oh.
was just water bubbling up through the bricks and started pushing bricks up.
Some of those lines date back to the private utility company in town in
Oh, wow.
1896 in that area,
Oh.
so that's.
Oh, my goodness.
It's how some of them are still in use and not abandoned, and how we haven't had leaks on them even worse. But that's why we're doing the project, so. So, once again, if anybody ever has any questions, or you wanna come out and see what's going on anywhere, I'd be more than happy to have you stop by, you can see what's going on in different locations. We will be starting on South Hill, next week, if not later this week, maybe, depending on how things go. So, Coble we're gonna start going and playing with valves over around that Coble area. Charlie's biggest fear about diving right into that Coble welded intersection is if we get in there and more of this falls apart, to get something even hooked up temporarily, how many days are several of those businesses gonna be out? So he's trying to get some of the valves taken care of within a block or two around that, to know that if we have to shut something down, we have a minimized shutdown. So, cause there's a couple that we don't wanna take down, Marion Manufacturing, the Vet Clinic, Carlson's, I mean, AMB's, there's just some of those that can't be without water, so. We're just gonna play that one as best we can and minimize.
What's our policy when a yard gets torn up pretty bad, like on Elm Street?
What we're doing is, one of the reasons that one is torn up pretty bad is it was wet enough, they couldn't go back in and clean it up. So as we get done with that street, we're going back in and grading it as finely as we can. They're gonna come back in with even better yard preparation and actually get it ready to seed, and then we seed it back. So, but with Elm Street and some of these others we've done so far, We haven't seeded because we haven't done the meters yet, so we're just still gonna come through one more time. So until the meters are done, we're trying to prep those areas as best we can. Now, if somebody wants to go seed on their own, they can do that. But we will seed it before we leave. Get cleaned up.
Yeah, but right now, he's building an interstate with no
Yeah.
off-ramps.
Which, some of the off-ramps we currently have underground are, look like Oklahoma and not Kansas, so. Anybody from Interstate South will understand what I said, so.
For anybody from Oklahoma.
It's pothole avoidance. Any other questions on the water?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the council in the public forum? Green, huh? I guess I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Aaron, that was fun, I think I'll come see you.
Second.
An open day,
Favor,
right?
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody on the job site?